Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Ed Rosenberg again. And this morning, or my morning, I'm speaking to Elena from SellerEngine. How are you, Elena?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to talk to you today.
Okay, so Elena is actually, in my opinion, an expert on Amazon suspensions. I've spoken to her a lot about different cases, and she's helped a lot of people. So thank you for that. Now I want to ask a couple of general questions about Amazon suspensions, and then maybe we'll hone in on like some current situations. Why do some POAs get bounced back when people write it? You know, you see pretty similar situations, and people write POAs and they get bounced back. What would be the reason? Like one will get accepted and one gets denied. Is there a quota?
Right, of course. Okay, so the first thing to keep in mind when people get suspended, they panic. Because of the fact that they panic, they sometimes submit their appeals, not as an appeal in itself, but as a question like, what have I done wrong? Or the other way around, they write to Amazon, I have done nothing wrong, like somebody's after me, or whatever kind of a reason they can find. Other times, they do write up plans of action, but they don't do it right. And this means that they don't do the proper research before putting together their appeal, so they don't identify the root causes behind the suspension. So if Amazon mentions a specific reason, such as not as advertised, they are unable to identify what exactly lies behind that complaint, and they don't put that in their plan of action. In other instances, they create their plan of action and they only mention what they corrected. So I've done this, I've set up my system properly, I hired more people, and so on and so forth, but they don't mention any preventive measures. So Amazon sees that they corrected the problem, but they basically show no proof that they're ready to prevent the complaints in the future. And then I would say that the last one would be structure. Sometimes their appeals are so clustered together information-wise that the structure isn't clear and the performance team can't really identify what they're after in the appeal. That would be the problem identification, and then the appeal, and then the preventive steps. So as long as the structure isn't clear enough, there are high chances of your appeal to get denied.
Mm-hmm. Now, how would you explain this? Like, used as new, inauthentic, not as
Okay, so
advertised.
yeah.
Tell me what each one is, because to me it seems like it's just random. You know, it's sort of like the same idea, product quality issues, but are they?
Yeah, so I'm going to start by saying that experience has taught us that Amazon pretty much works in what we call campaigns. So they, for a few months in a row, they suspend people for a specific reason, and then they switch to another. Like last year, they had one suspension after another for items not matching product detail pages. And now this year, they've been suspending sellers based on 3 or 4 reasons, and the most common ones are inauthentic, used items sold as new, and not as advertised. And the most surprising thing in this is that they've been including examples of ASINs and problems that sellers have done away with or are done away with. So they've been including really old examples that people looked into when their notifications on them came in, and still included that in the appeals, making the appeal work harder, basically. So I was saying one of the most common reasons for the suspensions lately is inauthentic. There are 2 things to mention here. Inauthentic is different from intellectual property right infringement, and they would need to be handled differently. It's important to remember that in the case of items marked as inauthentic, people need to look for what I personally call buzzwords. So Amazon works on robot identification, automated identification. So they look for words such as fake or counterfeit in several places, in the customer communication towards the seller, in the negative feedback, even in the product reviews, especially if there's a review in there with a buyer that didn't disclose their identity. chances are Amazon is going to check the stock of all sellers listing on that page. So that would be for inauthentic. Just check what's behind that complaint, try to identify who exactly complained of your products, and then try to work with that. Sometimes it can be as weird as people suspecting your items are inauthentic even because of functionality problems. So I expected this to run better. I expected the sound of the headphones to be louder and, you know, reasons like that. So you need to get to the bottom of the issue and see exactly what raised their suspicions. And I was mentioning intellectual property rights in as opposed to this. You usually get an email from Amazon. It can be a legal company representing another company, or it can be directly the manufacturer or the brand owner that's going to be in there. The best course of action for this is, of course, to contact the brand or intellectual property right owner to work with them. Amazon advises you to do so, but sometimes they won't cooperate, of course. So you're basically there. You have an obstacle to overcome that situation. Again, you need to identify how you breached those people's rights. Sometimes there's images that you used without their approval. Sometimes you're doing private label, let's say, and you've been using their trademarked word or brand name in your listings. So you've basically just breached their rights by accident. So the best thing to do is to work with them, be upfront about your sourcing model. That's a mistake that a lot of people do. They try to hide their sources and supplier names. And of course, the right owners won't really cooperate in such circumstances. So be upfront about them, better apologize than hide stuff from them, and get them to retract the claim. But even if they don't retract the claim, as Amazon suggests they could, there's still ways to fight this. As long as you identify the root cause, so as long as you find an error with your pictures, with your titles, or whatever else, and you present this in a clear way to Amazon, you can still get reinstated even without the brand owner removing their claim. Yeah, and then I was mentioning about not as advertised and used items sold as new. In these cases, usually Amazon looks at the buyer-seller communication. I want to say no seller would be 100% clear of issues. Like, you can check and double check your items, but sometimes it's going to happen. Like, you're going to send something that is not in flawless condition, or that I don't know, with used items sold as new, oftentimes we've got problems with sizes or dimensions, or people selling on the same page as yourself. They change the picture and you don't notice. So suddenly something else is represented in the pictures and your customers complain. So the process is pretty similar to Inauthentic. You need to dig up in all the customer communication, buyer-seller communication that you have, and find the specific complaints behind these. And once you do, it's pretty straightforward what you can do to improve those aspects. Like, you can wrap your items better, you can correct your listings, you can pay more attention to your quality checking process, item functionality, and so on and so forth. A lot of people having these two kind of problems with not as advertised and condition problems use either drop shippers, or they have their items sent directly to Amazon and then Amazon fulfills them. So they basically never look at the product. It's a very risky model. Be careful what suppliers you use when you put your business in their hands, because it can be dangerous for sure.
Right. You spoke a little bit about the infringement thing, and you were saying that, you know, sure, work it out with the other company. But the problem I have is Amazon is just taking their word for it. It's not like I have any chance to deny it. It's not like they're giving other companies giving their opinion, and then I'm giving my opinion, and then Amazon's deciding.
Right.
So how does that work? I mean, like, I was even thinking, I sell my own private label item. If I see somebody else selling, I mean, how I could just say they're infringing too.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. So do they? You got to show me how to do that. Can you? But like, what kind of evidence are these companies bringing that's so compelling to Amazon that they suspend your account on one listing just because some lawyer in some company said that you don't have a right to sell this item in the UK? Are they giving
Okay,
overwhelming
so
evidence? Are they signing an affidavit? Like, what's the process? Do you know?
a lot of times, brand owners or intellectual property right owners, they place an order with you and get one of the items in your stock and then file the complaint. But other times, they can just contact Amazon about it and your listing will be suspended until you show proof that you're entitled to sell and not breaching any reselling rights or intellectual property rights. So Amazon does work on a suspend first, ask questions later policy, as you said. So they will suspend you, but that's why we keep telling people that only sourcing from wholesalers or buying stock from liquidators who cannot support you in such investigations is a very risky business model. If you're going to do it, just make sure that you have some solid suppliers, authorized distributors or manufacturers that you work with, at least for a part of your inventory, just to show that you are putting effort into this and you are you rely on a solid sourcing model. If the brand owner doesn't cooperate, as I was saying, your only chance is to identify how you managed to breach their intellectual property rights and then disclose your source to Amazon and then correct your problems that you found with your listings or picture or whatever it is, and then explain to Amazon how you're gonna handle things in the future to stay away from such complaints. There are cases where right owners do cooperate and they're sympathetic of your situation, or at least are willing to send that email even if you got them upset or anything, you know. But other times they just won't cooperate. Sometimes when you only have an email from Amazon from a legal company representing a brand owner, try looking up the brand owner behind that on Google, find their direct contact, because you might be more successful than working with legal companies. From our experience, the majority of the legal companies representing various brand owners aren't really willing to cooperate with you in any way to assist you. Yeah.
Right. You gotta get a sympathetic.
Yes. Or yes. Getting a lawyer involved would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's a good idea. If you speak to the brand owner and you get like
Yeah.
and you just explain, look, I'm not going to relist, but all this is only that you're not going to relist. Have you seen any success of some of a company saying that you can't list on this ASIN and fighting it, and then Amazon saying you're right, you could list? No,
Only when
forget
they,
about. No, they're not talking about getting their account reinstated and not listing those items. What I'm referring to is getting the actual ASIN reinstated.
after an intellectual property right infringement.
Very hard, right?
Yeah. If they have the proper paperwork, yes. Sometimes even such infringements can be misunderstandings. Like we've had customers whom we've helped reinstate listings for, who were working with suppliers or resellers that the manufacturer wasn't aware of a business or a contractual a business relationship between them. So, you know, that's when after we cleared everything up, they said, okay, that's fine, you can go ahead and list our products again. So, you know, they don't investigate much either. We actually know of large companies who use automated systems to find their products on Amazon too. And they file complaints against those sellers without much verification behind it, similar to what Amazon does. So they look for their trademarked words, or design or patterns or anything they can identify on Amazon, and they just, you know, email everybody in a bulk or something, you know, so they don't,
Right.
sometimes they don't do it.
But I think for those listening, you know, like a lot of times the manufacturer doesn't know. If you're going by, you know, Jim's best deals, then and you bought it legitimately, you're allowed to do that. And but the manufacturer has no idea, so that can happen too. But my question more was, would Amazon ever? But in all those cases, the brand owners eventually agreeing with this to have the seller reinstated. Is there any way to override that infringement on an ASIN? Or is that
if you don't have the brand owner's cooperation, probably not. I want to say no. Yeah, it would be really difficult.
That's what I told people also, that the best chance is if you get suspended to get the ASIN, forget about the ASIN and then they get reinstated, but to get the ASIN reinstated, I found that to be very hard. Want to get to one other thing you said before about the inauthentics and the used as new. What about if it's commingled? Like, how does that work? If you're sending commingled inventory, and somebody said that you're selling fake, I mean.
Okay, so our recommendation whenever we deal with sellers who use the commingled option is to stop using it. It presents a risk that you cannot really fight. So in a lot of cases, people came to us and told us, okay, I've been receiving returns and complaints on condition or not as advertised or inauthentic. And then when the packages reached our warehouse again, I saw that the packaging wasn't mine. So the wrapping wasn't mine. They could clearly identify that that wasn't an item from the stock that they sent in. So in order to keep yourself safe from trouble, just use the labeled inventory option. Apart from that, dealing with inauthentic and not as advertised complaints, the background process is the same in the sense that you need to identify the root causes behind them. But if you were suspended for both of them together in the same suspension email, I would create a separate plan of action for each. Because the corrective measures and the preventive measures that I was mentioning earlier that's supposed to be in your plan of action, those could be different for the two reasons. So our suggestion would be to approach them separately, yes.
Right. Okay. All right. So I really appreciate that. Anything else did we not cover? Because that was really informative here.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with this. Another piece of advice that I would want to give to sellers when they get suspended, just don't rush to send in an appeal. It's really important for you to have already implemented the steps that you promised you do to Amazon, in the sense that we've have had a lot of sellers who appealed, and then Amazon went back to them and told them, okay, let us know when you finished implementing those steps. So it's just time that's lost on your side. So don't hurry up to submit the appeal. Correct everything about your listings and your inventory. Clean up any faulty items. Have your stock returned from Amazon if it's in their warehouse, and only then appeal the decision and tell them, I've done this and that, and this is what I'm going to do in the future. Otherwise, you're risking what I said earlier, with them having you confirm that you've implemented the measures that you promised.
Right. Like another thing I was thinking, like a lot of times you have these POAs and you know, you hire this company to do that, and you have a new inventory system, and you hired 16 people to check every single item 4 times. But you send in the POA like 6 hours later. So.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's important to be specific, like reality, you know, you got to be realistic about that. Like realistically, you couldn't do all that checking if you're listing 1,000 items and I've done all the checking, but I'm submitting the appeal within 4 hours from the suspension. Yeah.
Right. So you got to give it. So in other words, it depends what it is, but so if it's like a complicated POA in which you're doing like you're promising all these things.
Exactly. And with Amazon's campaign lately, like a lot of them are complicated, really. And with 3 or 4 suspension reasons in there, especially if sellers have a lot of selling history, it's not realistic to submit your appeal so soon. Just, take your time and analyze things through before you actually send anything back.
Okay, Elena, that was really, really great. And I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely be speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too. I appreciate your time.